there. I have not been able to sleep. I have been, not here, but up until here, I have not been able to sleep. I've been like a dog at a bone. And I didn't think of it like this, but I had to pull myself out of my life to interrupt what was happening. This figuring out energy. I know that this is not an uncommon thing. I know you can relate to this. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about this experience I've been having as a Gen X woman, as somebody on the entrepreneurial path, still pretty new, on my own, really doing everything by myself, and not really having come from an entrepreneurial background, meaning it wasn't also modeled to me by parents, or not really. And when, we are, I think, conditioned in many ways, not a good or bad thing, to be survivors. And women have very much been placed in roles to do it all the roles, especially if we wanted to participate in the world, in the greater economy, in the world that women have not been, even today, really welcome. And one of the things I've been finding that's been really, really challenging for me is finding the place for me to land in the entrepreneurial space, because I entered into it after a layoff and a 3-month job hunt that was entrenched and dedicated and devoted and spending way too much money on every single application and not really getting very far, not really ever getting even an interview unless I happen to know someone, and I think that happened twice. Anyways, it really gave me permission to move into giving the entrepreneurial journey a real opportunity, which is something I've always wanted for myself. So that became available, and it really only became available because I joined something that then led to something else. And I learned about this woman who was teaching people how to create and sell courses online. I didn't realize that it was really starting to tip before I entered, and I bought a very expensive course that did not really reveal that you really need an email list. To make that happen. Didn't know that. Didn't really understand that. And I was never successful at building a really big email list, because also by the time I entered, and I can relate to this, people don't just hand out their email address. You have to have something really, really compelling. And when you're starting out, you often don't know what that really is, because you have to hear, you have to know, and you have to then go through those steps of recognizing that what you think and what you want or how you would talk about it isn't necessarily how your customer is. And then there's all of the information around the niching and not niching. And, I'm not going to go down that path right now. I just really want to talk about the power and the struggle and the pain, all great learning that happens on the journey and in the figuring it out. And we'll say it's been really, really challenging. It's been really painful. It's been really confronting. It's been hard. Most of it has been curious and interesting and learning a lot. Most of it has been, because of the conditioning I mentioned at the very beginning that I think a lot of us have, especially Gen X women, to figure it out, to get it done. I'm a worker. I am a, what do you call it? I'm a hustler, and I started out in retail, fashion retail, where you learn a lot. I mean, that's boots on the ground. That's everything. It's a 24/7 business. You got staff, you got customers, you got product, you got marketing, you got merchandise. I mean, it's everything. It's such a powerful place to learn. But it definitely, and when you grow up in scarcity, when you grow up in a single income household, when you grow up in an area and experience where you don't have what your friends have, and you have to, everything comes through hard work, and nothing wrong with hard work, but I do think there's a story around that. And then there's a belief that you're going to get rewarded, and that doesn't always happen that way. And life isn't fair, even though we want it to be. So I'm aware that I was just hitting that place of just trying to figure it out and really having a hard time accepting that I wasn't successful. I wasn't experiencing success in a way that was going to work for me. And and with AI and technology and the online space, there's just so many rabbit holes you can go down that has satiated that part of me that's multi-passionate, loves to learn, but it needs to result in income streams. And I think what comes easy to some people doesn't come easy to me, and what comes easy to me may not come easy to you or other people. But I do think things are harder often for Gen X women because it was harder and it has been harder, and we've been conditioned and programmed in that storyline. And when you learn to do it all yourself, you then create those conditions, you replicate those conditions. So I'm now in this beautiful place, learning more and more about, what is available when you're suspended in peace and in nature. So I'm going to be sharing a series of videos while I'm here. I won't be posting them until after I return home, but I'm going to record them as I'm here and sharing a few pieces of my experience that may help you feel seen. So if you are somebody that has had the experience of getting trapped in the figuring it out energy, you're not alone. And sometimes I think we know when to pause and to stop and to do something different. And sometimes I think it's hard to see that. And that's where I found myself. And I was having a hard time admitting that. I was having a hard time facing that. Because that's vulnerable in a way that I don't like being vulnerable. I'm vulnerable in a lot of ways, but those ways tend to be more challenging for me. They're getting ready to prepare for lunch here. There's like 7 dogs here. It's amazing. Yeah. Figuring it out. Sometimes there's a good time to figure it out, and sometimes you got to stop. You got to allow. I'm talking to myself, by the way. I just read something in an email that was really, in many ways, words I live by, but we can always forget those things, right? We often can share and teach what we're learning or we're being reminded of. And that is that when we do what comes easy to us, that's the path of what we're, not the only, but it is the work we're here to do. It's what comes easy to us. We didn't come here to struggle. We did not choose, and we were not brought here to have a complete path of struggle. Some existences will have more of that than others, depending upon the suit that we embody. And at the same time, the what I call bumping up against the walls, or the sandpapering of life, or the challenges are really trying to redirect us. But because we don't think that way often, we're in it, so in it that we don't see that, right? When you zoom out and get altitude, you can see a lot more. But up until you get to that place, can get so entrenched and like relentless and stubborn and just like, I know I can figure this out, right? But when that's not happening, at some point you have to be able to know when is when, to pause, to abort. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to give you another view of this beautiful place. I'm sitting right now in what is a yurt that was built actually not that long ago. This property he's owned for over 30 years. But he built this yurt, and it has his photography, and it's like in his books. It's a great place to kind of relax. It's actually kind of cold inside there because it's all closed up. But this is over 30 acres in the redwoods. There's running water all throughout this land that he purchased decades ago, that he's had this land surveyed, and it's links back to I think if I'm remembering this accurately, like a 4,000-year-old source. It is just, you can drink it, no problem. And it's a reminder to me, and I hope it can be for you, that there's so much more than we're immersed in on the day-to-day often, unless this is where you live. There's so much more to you. There's so much more to me. There's so much more to being in this human experience, and that we are part of something so much more. That's really what I mean. What I'm connecting with is remembering that truth with a capital T. And there's nothing wrong with goals and acquisition and challenges and learning and participating in commerce. I'm not, I'm into that at some points. But I think that can really become intoxicating and we can forget about all of this. And what's behind me that you can't see is Mount Shasta, which is still covered with snow. So that's it for now. Before I close this one out, I want to share with you a little bit of the nature, just so you can hear the sounds and breathe it in for maybe 60 seconds or so. I'll see you tomorrow. Until next time.